right, we're recording now, so go with your story.
All right. So I heard a story that the Buddha was challenged to a musical competition with a king who was a wonderful musician. So the Buddha came with his instrument. It was a stringed instrument, something like a lyre. And he would play, and then the king would play, and then Buddha would remove a string from his lyre. And then he'd continue to play, and then the king would play, and then the Buddha would remove another one. And this went on until there were no strings left. And the Buddha was thought to have won the competition. Because everybody had tuned into the unstruck sound. All right, that's the story.
That's very beautiful. This is exactly what I meant with when you can hear the sound of the one hand clapping. When there is complete silence and you hear that music of the silence.
Well, guys, we're gonna record this today, and we're gonna do something that we've never done, and we're just gonna put this out for people to see what this training, the heart of this training. So I thought that we could spend this time and revisit some of our intentions with this training and talk about a lot of the things that, a lot of the spiritual alignments that we want to help guide our students towards that are taking this course. And because I'm guessing a lot of the people that will be watching this don't know either of you, I thought it would be helpful for each of you to do a short introduction of yourself. So Greg, would you like to start?
Yeah, hang on. I'm just going to make a shift in my audio settings.
Cool.
So my understanding is that this history is relevant to why I would be teaching a meditation course.
Okay. Yeah.
So probably the most important parts of this story start when I was about 40 years old, when I was circling deeper and deeper into depression. And I did not know that there is an interior space that is darker than black. But that's what was happening for me. And it was scary because I could feel my life energy ebbing away. There was less and less day by day. So it was really clear to me that I had two choices: change or die. Wasn't ready to die. Suicide wasn't interesting. The death will come. I don't need to hurry it. So the change, something needed to change. And it wasn't my external circumstances because they were wonderful. I was dancing with a troupe on the low-flying trapeze. My choreography was getting special recognition. My girlfriend was in the troupe. I was working as a chaplain. I was teaching workshops on creativity. It was wonderful exterior, awful interior. So something needed to change. And I could tell it's not the exterior. However, the kind of change that I thought needed to happen inside, I didn't feel, personally, I didn't feel like I could do it in this Western stream of consumerism, of what Westerners had interpreted as important. So I went to Asia and I went to India for a couple of years, and that's where I learned about being able to practice meditation for a long time, not having to leave the country every 6 months to get a new visa to come back into the country to continue practicing. But I learned that there are meditation centers in Burma where anybody, you, me, anybody else could go and learn and then practice. And so I went to Burma and I went to a meditation center, and there were monks there. And I noticed that when we go into or before a meal, everybody lines up outside of the monastery meal place, and the monks are first in line to go in and get their food. And I realized I think I have two motivations to be a monk. One is I think it will help me meditate. It might sound silly, but on the other hand, in Burma, a monk is considered the son of the Buddha. I needed all the help I could get, like calling me the son of the Buddha. If I could believe that, I think it might help. So there was that. And there was, I have had this sort of long-term orientation that something about being a monk is sexy. So, like,
I think you're the only one that's ever had that notion.
And then thirdly, I know who's first in line to go get food. So those were my three motivations to become a monk. And it was actually a really, really good thing for me to become a monk and practice meditation. I thought I'd be doing that for 10 months because that's how long it'll take me to get in the groove and really have a sense of what I'm doing and build momentum so that when I came back to the West, I'd be able to continue on my own. Well, 10 months came, 10 months went, and I stayed on. Partly because I was learning that my inner world was so different than what I thought it was. And I was beginning to see ways that I harm myself. Here's a really quick, very short example. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm eating breakfast. It's still dark outside and the sweat is pouring down because it's so hot. And I am afraid of noon when the sun is right overhead and the sun comes down like a hammer, according to Rudyard Kipling when he writes about Burma. And I knew that at noon it is so hot, but here it is, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm anxious about something that doesn't actually exist. Bam! Being able to see that is like a little light bulb going off because I could see how my thoughts are affecting my present state. And the thoughts are about something that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, Greg, and you said something also that I've been reflecting on about when we experience certain internal states. For me, that was anxiety. That it's the worst part about that is not the sensation of it. The worst part is having no prospect of what to do about that. And in the West, there's no prospect of what to do about that. And even what I've been more tuning to lately is that also in many spiritual circles, in much of how spirituality is related to on the planet today, there's this notion that spirituality and healing comes to us in a sort of like random sense. And what I've been tuning into is that what's unique about India, that mindset, is there is a belief and a practice and a 5,000-year history of research and development around the belief that you can cultivate the type of internal environment that you want. And that is a total revolution. It's because it puts it back in our hands. Yes. It says you can experience the world the way that you want. and yeah, so I that keeps setting in for me, and how grateful I am to have discovered that, and how transformative, and how at this time on earth, this is a time where when people say awakening, I believe that that's what we are awakening to, that gift from India that was given from Indian culture. So Greg, you were there for 6 years in Burma?
No, 7.
7. And then you came back, and you now live in Indiana and have a wife and a family, and live a
the life of a householder.
Normal, yeah.
Yeah. So there's 2 pieces that I wanted to add to that development that you're referring to. One is that for me, I knew that the realm of intimacy is a lot of learning territory for me.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'd finished my education as a monk. It's not like I had reached the end of some path, but I did pivot. I did turn to focus more on developing my heart's ability to love and be loved, by the way. The obverse is also part of that process. So to be in an intimate relationship, oh man,
territory.
oh, there is a lot going on there. And yeah, so I'm going to pause on that. The last piece that I wanted to say was that in Joseph Campbell's work, who distilled multicultural myths and stories into a very simple format that he calls the hero's journey. The hero leaves home, goes on adventures, fights demons and monsters and evil people, and meets mentors and guides, and wins boons, or wins information, or wins knowledge or wisdom, and then brings them back to where he came from. So it's an entire circle. And when I realized that my father's dying was offering me the opportunity, in a little sense, a leverage to pop me out of Burma and to come back to the United States. When I saw that that could be what was going on, was there's this invitation or an opportunity to bring to the West what I had learned in the monastery, I realized, yeah, okay, I'll go. Let's see what happens. So I've been teaching around the world and online around the world for about 8 years, maybe 9.
Cool. Well, thank you. That was, it's all your story. It's new every time I hear it.
Oh, good, because you've heard it a bunch of times.
Punnu, you're up.
So for me, it started quite early in life. I would say it already started when I was in my mother's womb. That, I was energetically, as a being who is in the mother's womb, was feeling the pain of the family, the pain of the struggles and of my mother and father not getting along, and the struggles that they were going through. So in one of my meditation, I had this experience of not wanting to come out in this world. At the time of birth, it took me quite a while. I saw myself strangling my neck with the umbilical cord. And it took quite a while for me to come out. And then when I was 5 years old, this pain carried with me, and I tried to escape the house a couple of times, but somehow my family members, they found me and brought me back. And then it continued. And
And
I,
that was in India, right, Punu?
it was in India. I was born and brought up in a family where my father used to be a businessman, but he quit and he entered into spiritual works with kirtan and being a priest in a temple. And I spent my time, my early childhood time, mostly in the temples. So I remember at the age of 5, I was already sitting on the stage with my father because he used to sing the spiritual kirtans and the hymns. And at that time, how much ever I could understand the words and the meanings, those words pierced me in my heart. And those experiences, they started to really go deep within my cells, in my consciousness. And I started questioning to myself that if these enlightened beings who are talking about these high states of consciousness, I would like to experience those high states of consciousness, because right now I'm suffering, I'm going through so much pain. So at the age of 13, I remember I asked one of the enlightened being who was visiting Hyderabad, where I studied, was born and brought up, and asked him a question: why there is so much suffering in the world? Because I was going through that suffering, and he replied to me, "Actually, there is no suffering. Suffering is in the fact of how you perceive the world. Actually, there is no suffering because whatever you are experiencing is your internal thing which is getting reflected outside. So there is suffering which is going on inside. So you, at that time, at the age of 13, 1 3, I couldn't understand what he was talking about. And then later on, like as days and months and years passed by, I started to really go in search of the answers I was looking for, search for meditation, search for, I really wanted to know what is this whole um, scenario of the divine creation and God, and what is all this drama going on. So being born and brought up in India, it was so easy and accessible to meet people like enlightened beings, go to ashrams and study and do meditation. So I started it. I call it like I went on guru shopping, like no window shopping, but guru shopping from one guru to another. So, searching for answers, and it kept on going for quite a number of years. And I remember when I was 23 years old, I was already in Moscow working for a company. And there was this desire that came, like what Greg was mentioning. There's this a thought came that I have experienced everything in life and there is no reason to live anymore. So let's give up this life, like a thought of suicide came. But then I thought, what a waste, what a waste of life at this age. And I feel like I'm done with everything, I want to give up. And then something changed and something shifted. The search was still there. And I came to know about one teacher in Philippines. And I used to live in Philippines before coming to Russia. So I called him up and I was talking to him about these things that were going on inside me. And he said, when you come to Philippines, when you come to Manila, we'll talk about it. And I waited for 2 years because I was 2 years in Russia. And then when I went and I spent some time with that teacher, and still that, there was some things that I understood, some things that were revealed, some experiences that opened my eyes. But still there was this, still there is this, I was not like really fulfilled, or, then the search continued. And there came a point where 2010, I came across a person in Bali, and she had just come from India, from a university where I studied. I came to know about this university, and she was talking about being integral, being integral to whatever you're going through, whatever you're feeling. And she also spoke about many other things like relationships and this and that. And I said, I never thought that spirituality would encompass all these relationships, and I never cared about that because I personally didn't experience relationships, relationship with my parents, with my siblings, with my friends, with my partner. It was all superficial. I never knew how to be in a relationship because that.
And
So
Punu,
she,
this woman was a Western woman, right?
yeah, she's actually from the States. Her name is Melanie. She uh, lived in New York and LA. And
I never really thought about this before, but that's a really interesting part of your story, because growing up in India and having access to that world, leaving, and then actually rediscovering your new path through a Western woman, right?
yes,
Like that's pretty cool.
that's
And
really
and
cool.
yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that. I mean, but yeah,
And
that just struck me as like something that's like a unique. I've never
yeah,
heard that happening before.
yeah, we had a lot of conversation, and actually, I took a course with her
Yeah.
that changed my life. And as soon as I took the course with her, I went to India in 10 days. I booked my flight, and
Yeah.
I was in the university. And there the journey began really very deep. 2010, I remember when I took the course, and I took the trainer's course for that was 10 days course. Something profound shifted. And this is the one thing that I still remember, and I still share with people, is the 8 baby steps program that
Mm.
shifted. And that's what I share. Is the first one is knowing the mantra of life. What is this? How do we have the power to change everything? you know Knowing that everything is consciousness. you know and I am that. I being the consciousness that has beginningless beginning and endless end. All that is consciousness. Yeah. And the word that refers to the stance that we take in our life, whether we take positive stance or negative stance, good stance, bad stance, whatever we take, the consciousness, which doesn't, which is a neutral thing. It doesn't say, okay, this person has taken a positive stance, so let me give this person the positive, things in life. And if this person has taken negative stance, I will not give. No. So whatever we decide, that's the power that we have within. That whatever we take the stand, so that it happens. That's how it unfolds in our life.
Mm.
And taking full responsibility of life. And whenever we blame others or situation, we actually give away our power to them, and we wait for that person or the situation to change, and that's never going to happen. So we got to take responsibility, full responsibility. And then understanding how the mind works, because there are so many layers of the mind, and the two important layers are the conscious and the unconscious mind. So these are all included in the first step. And the second step is the growth formula. In life, either we are growing or we are dying.
Mm.
Life never stands still,
Yeah.
always on move. Either
Yeah.
we are moving ahead or we are moving backward. There is no static in this universe.
Right.
The third thing is meditations, to actually work with the pranic system, the energy system, the chakras, and physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every aspect, how to take this life to a really a good state, a high state. So that's why involving in different meditations techniques. The fourth thing is healing relationship with the parents. And that's where I was personally stuck for many, many years. Because when Melanie was sharing that if anybody who has unsettled relationship with a mother, they go through needless obstacles in life, unforeseen obstacles. They might also go through health issues, love relationship issues. And those who have unsettled relationship with the father, they go through financial issues, career, job, directions. All these cannot be proven scientifically, but these are empirical observations. And I'm a living example that because I was going through all these problems. And I thought to myself, come on, I'm a yogi, I'm doing meditations for so many years and doing
Yeah.
kirtan and involving in bhakti yoga and all these, why am I facing all these problems? And then it really struck like a big uh, uh, stone of it hit me like, so this is why I'm going through because my relationships are not settled.
Yeah, and I think that what you're talking about, this is the hard thing now, because there's the paths and there's the techniques of yoga and meditation that are laid out for us, but then there's that deep in, which is what you're talking about in healing relationships and healing all these deep psychic wounds that we have. It's really hard to find environments where we can do that. And also that's not necessarily something that's it's not prescribed in the Dhammapada and the Vedas. It's something that if you ask me, I would say that healing relationships, that's a Western idea that comes from Western psychology of looking at your parents and understanding the dynamics there. To some extent, that might be present in India, but what's interesting, I think, so interesting that stands out about your story is that, going the opposite direction of, I think, what a lot of Westerners experience, and that Westerners sort of run into the limits of the Western ideology and turn to the East, which is, Greg, what you'd shared and what's been my path. And Puno, it sounds like for you, it was the opposite. It was that you grew up in this culture that was steeped in all this spiritual lineage, and that's present, but also ran into the limitations of that as well. And so you find a Westerner and something that integrates and takes the beautiful core of the Indian spiritual teachings, but truly in a very present, modern way that is delivered in a way that actually can be healing for people. And I think that's to me the reason that this training exists, is because there's not a lot of good environments to learn both of those. And I think in a lot of environments, you're either sacrificing that beautiful Indian tradition to be in something that's hyper modern, or you are doing something that is so traditional where it doesn't feel like it hits the parts of the heart and the mind that are really there, that are really suffering. So yeah, thank you both for sharing that. Let's shift now and talk about the training. Yeah, Greg.
I want to pause because Puno, you didn't finish your 8 steps, did you?
Oh yeah, he only got to 5.
4.
Yeah. Okay. Finish the steps.
Do you want me to finish it? We can also skip if you guys want.
No, well, I think the people are going to learn about it on the training, but I think you should finish them now that we're here.
This is a great high-level introduction where we get to see some of the geography, and then later we'll actually walk the path.
Cool.
The 5th baby step is healing relationship with children, learning the art of parenting, how to bring good citizens to this world, how to take the responsibility of being a parent, and to check if one is ready to be a parent. So all these holistic approach about being a parent and learning the art of parenting. The 6th baby step is healing relationship with the spouse, with the partner, how to have a loving relationship, where you can take to a very high state of um, whatever the temperament of the partner is, it doesn't matter. What is going on inside you when you encounter some certain situations, challenges, problems, or situations? How do you respond, or how do you react to it? And those who are single, how to actually find a right person, and what are the points that one needs to cultivate within to be a good person, because we only attract what we are. So, as I mentioned, the external world is merely the reflection of the internal state. If a
Mm.
person is living in a conflict state, they will attract to themselves only a person who is in conflict, and further they are conflict. If someone is living in a peaceful, loving state, they will attract only that kind of person who is also in that peaceful and loving state. So this is the sixth baby step. Seventh baby step is
I like how they're called baby steps. They're these like huge life things, and they're, oh yeah, baby steps. No problem.
the seventh baby step is self-expansion, coming out of the limited identity that we create for ourselves. See, every one of us has this um, thing within each and every one of us to express and to fulfill. You know, we express through our work, through achievements, through relationships, through all this, and to really feel fulfilled. You know, whatever we do, we fulfill ourselves through different various forms of pleasures, or um, doing things that we love to do. You know, that's the fulfillment. So, how to expand that states that we are living in? Because as I mentioned, either you are expanding or you're contracting. You know, you grow, you grow, you grow in each and every aspect of our life. So that's the seventh baby step. Eighth baby step is connection to the higher self, to all that is, to the divine, to the higher self, to your connection with your divine. And then these are the eight baby steps that has actually brought a very drastic, a very major shift in my life. And I practice this every day.
Mm.
Every day there is this awareness about all these points that I share.
It's kind of like an eightfold path, but it includes the totality of experience. I think
Absolutely.
I think the eightfold path is all just what's going on in here, but what's cool about that system is it doesn't negate relationships. It doesn't negate our responsibilities to the world and the reality that we manifested here to be in relationship with other people and to learn from that. Um, so yeah, that's really cool. And what it makes me, it's I'm reflecting back on when I started meditating and how there's, I think in the West we're so drawn to, we want to understand the technique. How do I sit? How do I breathe? What do I do with my mind? But I think what we're talking about is it's not a technique. It's yeah, it's really it's a psychic healing process that has to happen before we can sit in a technique and honestly do inner work with it. And so I wanted to pose a question to you both related to that. When you look at your students and how they enter a path of meditation and what ideas they come into it with, what are the shifts that you try to inspire them to make with their current relationship and how they're thinking of meditation into how you guide them into a relationship to their meditation practice, which actually does um, allow them to experience life from a full and joyful and connected place.
Puno, would you go first?
Yeah, Punnu, you go.
I would suggest you go first, Greg.
Okay. It goes like this in my book. Technique matters until it doesn't. Most of us, at least in the West, need to learn about their minds, about the ability to focus, about the ability to be aware, about the state of non-thinking. Most of us need guidance to become aware of what's already here. It's not like we're bringing something new in, like we're importing something, but we are becoming more attuned to what's already here. Think about it this way for a moment. From my standpoint, Isaac Newton was brilliant because he saw an apple fall from a tree and he wondered, why didn't that apple fall up? Why does everything fall down? That is a fantastic thought because everybody all the time is surrounded by gravity. It's a radically creative mind and open perspective that can see things that are already here, and most of us take them for granted. So the different techniques that we teach in meditation classes and our course are developing our mind, developing the ability to concentrate, developing the courage to be outside of our comfort zone, developing fundamental trust. Now, on the one hand, it's inaccurate to say that we're developing this because it's actually already here. It's closer to say that we're uncovering these aspects of experience. So that's what technique does, and that's why it's helpful. But the technique is to, on the one hand, I want to say it's to get you somewhere. The technique is not important. What's important is that you arrive at somewhere. So whether you take a bus, a boat, a plane, a skateboard, that part doesn't matter. So here's part of what's tricky in my book about what we're taking on in terms of helping people learn meditation and then be able to teach meditation. Anything that we can say with words will be inadequate. Take that example I gave of a minute ago of it's important to get from here to there. And however you get there doesn't matter. That little story, it's not about getting somewhere else.
Yeah.
But we're using language, we're using stories, and thank goodness we have two men who are coming from such different angles to come to the same place. When we're like a bicycle rim, we're on the one is Western, one is Eastern, we're both headed towards the center. And we've got different ways of talking about this path towards the center.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me also reflect on what we were talking about last week when we were talking about how our reference point for how to enter the path of meditation is what other people have done in the past.
Mhm.
But what we're trying to reveal is not that we live like those people. It's not that we do the same things on earth as them. It's that we get in sort of an internal flow of benevolence and joy and inherent goodness that reveals who we are, and do with that what we are, what is in our nature to do. And I think the other thing that I thought was that you realized is there's so much nuance to that, and which is why uh, they say, and my experience has been to really start to understand meditation, you need to be around a teacher. You need to be around people who have really walked and embodied this path. And I think that that's part of, I think, what is so beautiful about this environment with you two is that you're two individuals who have walked the same path in a different way and can come to the same center. And to have teachers who are wise enough to show that path and imbue students with that in order to free them to go into their highest expression, and not bring them into some religion or some dogmatic belief or some agenda that they have for the student. I just want to acknowledge how rare that is, that there are, that you guys both teach from that space, and I know both of you do. But I think, all of those nuances of guidance, I think, are just super hard. They're super hard to find. I think a lot of people on earth today are meditating. They're meditating through apps, they're meditating through, YouTube videos, and that's great. It's like we all know that this is something really great. We know there's something here. And I think that this training is an opportunity to like enter this real ethos of like embodied individuals who can start to help students develop their foundation for whatever that then blossoms into becoming, right? Which I'm guessing is not a monk. I mean, I don't have that desire. None of us, Greg, you walk that path, but that's not most people's desire, right? So Punnu, same question.
My approach is bringing people from intellect to intelligence, because there is a difference between intellect and intelligence.
Yeah, explain that.
Intellect is something that we acquire through knowledge, through books, through reading, through techniques, through all these things. Intelligence, on the other hand, belongs to the heart. Intelligence is something when someone is in complete silence. All these techniques, all these meditation techniques, as Greg was mentioning, leads to one goal, which is to get to the source. Complete stillness, from movement to stillness, from stillness to movement. Being very, very comfortable with whatever is happening in the external world, being in the marketplace where everybody is going into that craziness of screaming and shouting, yet your internal is completely quiet and still.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is like, that's the goal today. Like that's the thing that I think that we're all seeking is how to what we say, east on the inside, west on the outside. Can you talk about, Punnu? You have a unique way. So you talked about this distinction between intellect and intelligence. you have a really unique way of all of the meditation teachers that I've ever practiced with of bringing that out. Can you talk about your method for bringing someone into their heart?
Yeah. So basically, what I have been learning and what I've been, going through in my personal life, that why does problem arises in individuals' life? There are basically three reasons for that. One is relationships. Second is karma. Third is ancestral liberations. Um, most of our problems that we encounter are because of these three. And my approach is to, it's beautiful to do asanas, which is very important for the physical strength, and to go deeper into pranayama, and is going deeper into the 8 limbs of yoga. The ultimate thing we are all actually inspired about is to being in that stillness. So the samadhi that we talk about. So my approach is to take people through different techniques, different ways that I must personally I have walked on, and through the experiences of what I have experienced, what hurdles I've gone through, so to help them, guide them, to take them out of that, so that they can experience the path.
Can I share my experience with,
sure,
with what I've experienced through your classes? I was someone who, for a long time, struggled with intellect. I only knew how to experience the world through intellect. It didn't even occur to me that there was another way to experience life. And the techniques that you give, particularly, the first couple ones, they have this way of making you feel into your body in a new way for the first time. So there's like the thoughts and, your plans and structures and rationale. And then there's the feeling, which we all have. We all do feel stuff, but that feeling, I like that term feeling, because, people call it all these things. It's actually feeling. That's that's what it is, intelligence, because that is our channel to that. And your techniques through breath and with a little bit of intensity, bring up, it almost feels like it's like widening your channel to be able to feel. Because when I used to close my eyes, and it was what you're saying is stillness sounded to me like just darkness and blankness. And it's not a blankness. It's when you first open up those channels of feeling, you can experience that intelligence from a totally different place. So my experience, and what I've just appreciated about you as a teacher, is that you bring students into that very intentionally to open up those channels, so that when they do sit, it's not that they're experiencing their thoughts and their rationale, which is never pleasant. People can actually sit in their intelligence. And I think that's really special. And to me, that's the start of the path. Until you can feel into your body, and until you're out of your thinking mind, it's really hard to start in the path. And, for me, I was doing Zen meditation for my first 4 years, hating it. I hated it, because I was cycling through my thoughts, and I didn't realize that there was hard intelligence. But then as I started to understand, cathartic techniques and pranayamas to open up those channels, that's to me when the meditative path opened. And it's like, I got it. And I understand what people are talking about now. Not just these are things that some people from India say, but I'm actually experiencing that directly. And I feel like my role here is just to affirm for people who are like me that is possible. and that when you and then you make a practice of it and it's in your life every day, you can really experience, Puna, what you're talking about, which is that you can have, you know, your external life doesn't go away. It actually just gets better. You just get to experience it from a place that's calm and connected, and you're aware of like the traps that you get yourself into, and it's a clear channel. Yeah, I think to me that's that part of it. You know, I remember you gave the metaphor in one class of it's like a laundry detergent, the technique that you give, and it's like a special detergent that and I really have come to believe in that as like a really key part of this experience, and there is that initial sort of wiping away and you know, using some intensity in the pranayamas before we can experience it directly. So.
And another thing, the prerequisite to actually go deep into the meditation is to recognize and acknowledge that we are all in the prison of the mind. This mind is like a prison. We are in that prison.
Yeah.
So to come out of it, it requires passion. The passion to come out and to actually experience what is the world outside.
Yeah.
You know? The way outside is to go inside, to actually experience the self. Who is this self?
And what did you said something right before I came on the call? You were saying something about how there's like the love that we know, and there's the experience that we know, and then there's also the love that we don't yet know. Could you
Greg was mentioning that.
Yeah, will you talk about that?
Yeah, but I need you to know I have a call in 4 minutes.
Oh no, yeah, no worries. We can wrap this up.
You know what? So do we go into the love that we know and the love that we don't know, or do we save that for another time?
You know what I'm feeling? I feel like we should do this every week.
Yeah.
We should have these conversations every week and just publish them for our students so that they can get to know you guys. So yeah, we can stop this here and we can just pick it up next week.
All right. Before we part ways, though, I want to tell you I want to tell you both something. What we're doing right now is really interesting and important to me. Mm. It's rare for me to interact with someone as knowledgeable and as articulate as you, Adam. And Punnu, it's rare for me to interact with another meditation teacher who has experience and who has language and who has passion for his work. And I've experienced your meditations and benefited greatly from it. So I feel like this is, what is this? It's a sort of culmination to be able to interact in this way on these topics.
Yeah.
I'm happy for me and any student that joins us. Wow. Woo!
And to do this as friends.
Yeah.
Right. And of all the things, you know, that I love about this school that we have is that we're all friends here. There's no, like, I could go out and like get a drink with either one of you. Like there's no, that's to me what is most precious about this environment, that you guys are humble enough to, and have, you know, walked the path in such a way where you can share what you know and also receive from students. And
receive from each other too.
Receive each other and receive from students and receive from everything. And yeah, that is like, that's that to me from you both has been the ultimate teaching for me. So thank you both. I love you guys so much.
Okay.
And
See you next
yeah,
week.
let's make this regular. We'll do this every week. That sounds great. Okay, guys, enjoy your week.
Love you, Adam. Greg, namaste.
Namaste.